Then I took a smidge and applied it down there.
This one's wife. Harry has had enough. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. As I've made clear on a number of occasions, the dynamic that takes place between the narcissist and the intimate partner primary source, that's what Harry is, the narcissist, of course, is his wife, is one whereby either she'll disengage from him if one of the 5 disengagement triggers takes place, or he'll escape, less likely, or neither of those things happen, and you have the rollercoaster dynamic of sustained devaluation, respite period, sustained devaluation, respite period until one of them dies. Many people believe that divorce is going to take place at some point, and that this one's wife will look to get rid of Harry. But that, of course, is contingent on there being a disengagement trigger. Interestingly, there is increasing evidence that's being put forward to suggest that Harry's had enough of being in the United States, stroke being with his wife. Naturally, given the fact that he is a victim, albeit willing to some extent, of his wife's behaviour, it isn't a surprise that he'd get fed up of it. Things that would keep him, of course, in the dynamic would be the fact that he loves her, that he wants to get back to the golden period when everything was amazing and wonderful, and he can't understand why that's gone wrong. If you accept that the children exist, he'll obviously want to keep the family unit together. And in such circumstances, blinded by his own emotional thinking and the continual presence of her manipulations, those are the factors that would keep him in the relationship. However, irrespective of what you might think about Harry, he still does remain a victim of a narcissist, which means he's in the sustained devaluation. That means he was given lots of the good stuff, and then repeatedly he experiences all of the bad stuff. He gets subjected to silent treatments, circular conversations, word salads, belittlement. He'll be invalidated. He'll be triangulated by being compared to other people unfavourably. He will have transgressions, both real and imagined, brought up from the past. He will be insulted. He might even face some form of physical violence and other manipulations. And of course, those of you who have been involved in the narcissistic dynamic, particularly those of you who have been in the sustained devaluation, know full well the toll all of that can take. We can see from Harry that he doesn't look happy, despite protestations that he was living in this idyllic lifestyle. His face told another story. You also add to the fact that, notwithstanding the sustained devaluation per se, meaning her manipulations towards him, the fact is that slowly but surely it may well be dawning on him that actually he's really messed up. Not just in what goes on behind closed doors, but also the fact that he doesn't enjoy the status that he once did. That he has been relegated to another spare, this time to his wife. The recent tours of Nigeria and Colombia reinforcing that that is the fact. And he may well be waking up to the fact of, she's always trying to steal the limelight. I'm not particularly keen on all of that. It's meant to be, I'm the prince, she married me. Remember, Harry does have strong narcissistic traits and won't take favourably, ultimately, to his wife trying to take over. And we've seen numerous instances where he's been unable to hide his contempt or irritation. But there's increasing evidence that he's had enough. Hilary Rose writes in the Times, "Well, knock me down with a very small feather. Prince Harry's apparently bored and wants to come home." So not just the fact that he's experiencing all of these various devaluing behaviours, but actually he's bored, that the Californian lifestyle has turned out not to be for him. 8 years since he met this one's wife, 6 years since he married her, 4 since they flounced off to America, he's back in touch with old friends and advisors and seeking to rehabilitate his image. There's quite some brass neck. He spent the intervening time saying he was hounded out of the land of his birth and had to take a freedom flight to Canada. Now, those observations, of course, will have been hugely influenced by her victimhood, which infected him. He's complained to whoever points a camera at him about vile courtiers, a wicked stepmother, violent brother, and emotionally stunted father. But now it turns out that watching this one's wife make jam is not enough. According to the Mail on Sunday, he's been WhatsApping old friends and advisors in the United Kingdom and wants to mend relations with his father. Having recently parted company with yet another head of communications, he is seeking counsel from old friends and associates, rethinking the way he operates. Interesting. The American way appears not to be working. When Christine Schirmer quietly quit her job as head of communications, she became the 10th staff member to leave in 3 years. Having been in the post since 2020, she could have qualified for a long service award. One friend has suggested that if he came back with zero fuss, zero publicity, and attends very mundane events, he could prove himself and win over the British public again. Notice that this is all about Harry's return. No mention of this one's wife. He would have to accept that he might be reduced to ribbon cutting for a long time, the friend continued, one of several old friends who are ready and willing to help him after the genuinely big surprise of hearing from him after 4 years. One is said to have wanted to tell Edward Lane Fox, a former private secretary to the Prince, "Please bring our boy home." His friends are calling it Operation Bring Harry In From the Cold. They've got their work cut out. Zero fuss, zero publicity is not exactly the Monty Shitshow playbook. It's a very long time, if ever, since Harry undertook the sort of ribbon-cutting Princess Anne does day in, day out. If he wants to know what zero fuss, zero publicity looks like, he could ask her. It would give him purpose to work again, one friend told the Mail on Sunday. Evidently, being a humanitarian and environmental campaigner, as he describes himself on SussexRoyal.com, is less time-consuming than he thought. One of his colleagues at Better Up, a coaching platform, described Harry's day-to-day responsibilities as zero things. For a proud man obsessed with his dignity and public image, it must hurt that one of the last times he appeared at an official engagement in the United Kingdom, the 2022 service at St. Paul for Queen Elizabeth's Platinum Jubilee, he was booed. One of the most popular members of the royal family, his ratings in the US are on the slide. In a recent YouGov poll, only 7% of respondents had a positive view of him. On the royal family's website, Harry and this one's wife biographies are right at the bottom, beneath even Prince Andrew. How Harry will manage to combine spending more time in the UK with marriage and family life remains to be seen. He has complained that they would not be safe because his automatic Met protection was revoked when he ceased to be a working royal. He nevertheless concluded that they'd be safe enough in Colombia, to parts of which the Foreign Office advised against all travel. No mention has been made of this one's wife wanting to return, let alone to open a hospice in Wigan, because why would she? She's already got everything she ever needed from Britain. Harry. She's living at home, close to her mother, lunching with A-listers who 8 years ago wouldn't have answered the phone to her. Harry is 6,000 miles from home, cut off from everyone and everything he's ever known. At one point, he was reduced to juggling in the background of a video starring his wife, and once he stopped flogging indiscreet malice about royal relatives, what's left? He turns 40 this month, a milestone in anyone's life. Until 4 years ago, his entire existence and upbringing were about royal life and service. His early attempts to recreate that life in America fell flat. Remember the photo shoot in the cemetery on Remembrance Sunday? While the Invictus Games is a remarkable achievement, most of his humanitarian work tends to be all about him. His and this one's wife's various awards are suspected of being orchestrated by their PR advisors. Their mini-royal tours to Colombia and Nigeria come over to the rest of the world as a bit pointless. He must know in his heart that his very public rejection of Britain, family and royal life deeply upset Queen Elizabeth, the grandmother he adored. His father has been very seriously unwell, so too the Princess of Wales, the woman he once described as the sister he never had. He only learnt that she was ill at the same time as the general public. And his and this one's wife's private message of support is said to have gone unanswered, naturally part of their no-contact regime. Harry is now thought to accept that his relationship with his brother is beyond repair, perhaps forever. For his part, Prince William was reported last week simply never to talk about the brother from whom he was once inseparable. He has moved on, while Harry has evidently not. One friend recently spoke of his frustration that all Harry did was brood on the past instead of looking to the future, and perhaps that struck home. But what of his stepmother, the Queen, the undisputed gatekeeper to his father, the King? When he flew over to see Charles after his diagnosis, he was only given half an hour of his time, and it was not just father and son, Camilla was there too. The Queen hasn't got where she is today by being an ingenue, so what will her view be on bringing the errant stepson in from the cold? Even if Charles is keen to forgive and forget, will she be too? After he said on international TV that she was prepared to leave bodies in the street if it helped her own public image. The irony is lost on Harry that if anyone has left bodies in the street, it's him, with his unending attacks on his family. A good news story about him being welcomed back into the royal fold and a photo of him introducing Princess Elizabeth to King Charles for the first time would not go amiss. Thus, that's Hilary Rose pointing out that not only would he be left questioning what he's got and where he's at, but also that he's become bored with life, and this has prompted him to contact people with a view to a potential return. Layer on top of that, which Hilary Rose doesn't mention, his treatment, courtesy of his wife by virtue of the sustained devaluation, which a victim of a narcissist always receives. It makes for a heady brew that would suggest that he would want to leave, that he would want to get out of there. But is there something else that's driving this behaviour? Is there something else behind why he might be angling to make a return? So, what else might be behind this sudden reaching out to friends and potentially family to foreshadow some kind of return? Is it something self-serving? Might it be that Harry's aware that the visa issue is going to be problematic for him, and he's thinking ahead that he might need to return to Blighty because the United States is going to say, sorry, Fanta Pubes, but you're out. So is this activity actually precipitated by self-interest? What do you think? Might it be that divorce is on the way? There have been many suggestions, of course, that this one's wife and Harry have already separated. I'm not so sure that that's accurate, though I do believe that ultimately divorce will occur. Might it be that divorce is in the air, is in the wind, and Harry, again, as part of those preparatory steps, has decided that he needs to make things right with the family in order to get to that point? Again, do you think that's something that's driving his behaviour, that it's out of necessity? Could it be that there are monetary pressures that are causing him to want to get back into the fold, again, driven by self-interest? Or do you actually think it is the case that Harry has had enough, that the American dream has fallen sour, that he's had enough of the devaluing behaviours, although he doesn't recognise them as such, but that he's fed up of his wife's behaviour, he feels lonely and isolated in the United States, and it hasn't turned out how he thought it would be, and he's essentially homesick? Could it be a combination of him having had enough and there being some other factor pushing him? Let me know your thoughts, but it is interesting because if this evidence is correct, that he has been contacting people and that they're surprised to hear from him and that they're looking almost of bringing him back from out of the cold, what is the driver behind it that might actually mean that he escapes the narcissist rather than being disengaged from? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. I'm HG Tudor. Thank you for listening.